Algorithm. Procedure for solving a mathematical problem. Procedure. Program. Set of rules. A computer algorithm then classified people according to their behavior. Buried in the algorithm are some tricky little mathematical conundrums. Many scientists were required to describe the algorithm for each problem. Breakthrough. The sudden increase in knowledge and technology. Advancement. Development. Headway. The breakthrough occurred after months of hard work and dedication. The engineer had a breakthrough in the design of a new product. The engineer's breakthrough invention revolutionized the data industry. Cutting edge. Using the most advanced and developed methods. Sophisticated. Painstaking. High-tech. The cutting-edge automotive design is focused on electric vehicles. Computers have brought cutting-edge technology into the classroom. If you are a scientist, you may have pioneered cutting-edge technology. Automation. Describes machines replacing human action. Modernization. Mechanization. Electronics. Industrial automation has revolutionized the manufacturing process. New technological automation will continue to take jobs from humans. The steel factory has implemented advanced automation technologies. E-commerce. The trading of goods and services on the Internet. E-business. E-marketing. Trading. The prevalence of e-commerce has made it easier to shop from home. Some people turn to e-commerce as a way to make a lucrative income. Their revenues come from advertising, virtual goods, and e-commerce. Integration. Combining or adding parts to make a unified whole. Incorporation. Unification. Combination. The different technologies can coexist over innovation and integration. The nexus of the project is the integration of various software systems. The technical integration of different organizations works for better outcomes. Mechanism. A system of parts working together in a machine. Equation. Formulation. Methodology. The mechanism is borrowed from mining, shipbuilding, and other industries. The watch mechanism is extremely intricate and very challenging to repair. A mechanism is a system of moving parts that performs a particular function. Obsolete. No longer produced or used, out of date. Antiquated. outdated, outmoded. If they do not learn new skills, they may become obsolete in their field. With technological changes, many traditional skills have become obsolete. The cannon became obsolete with the invention of more advanced weapons. Competitive. Having a strong desire to compete or to succeed. Ambitious. Combative. Determined. We must encourage innovation if the company is to remain competitive. Some U.S. industries are not as competitive as they have been in the past. Competitive teams that succeed showcase their technically advanced creation. Futuristic. Having or involving very modern technology or design. Visionary. Pioneering. Revolutionary. Unlike the other genres, science fiction explores futuristic concepts. The movie was science fiction and had a lot of futuristic technology. When compared to the first cell phones, today's iPhone looks futuristic. Quantum. The smallest quantity of some physical property. Proportion. Volume. Wave particle. Quantum theory explains the phenomenon of quantum superposition. The new software update promises a quantum leap in user experience. Governments and universities are rushing to develop quantum computers. Revolutionize. Change something radically or fundamentally. Upgrade. Modernize. Originate. Over the past 40 years, plastics have revolutionized the way we live. It is thought that virtual reality will revolutionize the entertainment industry. The mobile phone has revolutionized the concept of communication technology. Innovative. Featuring new methods, advanced and original. Creative. Pioneering. Ingenious. The company manufactures a range of innovative lightweight cycles. He was one of the most creative and innovative engineers of his generation. They are focusing on manufacturing a range of innovative lightweight products. Alignment. The correct positioning of something. Arrangement. Positioning. Sequence. It is crucial for our actions to be in alignment with our quality standards. The gears in the machine were not in alignment, causing it to malfunction. Each person's genetic makeup is unique, as is their biomechanical alignment. User-friendly. A device or system that is easy to use or understand. Foolproof. Comprehensible. Easy to use. This is an entirely computer-operated system which is user-friendly. I thought the idea was to make editing simpler and more user-friendly. We are looking to improve the technology and make it more user-friendly. Indispensable. Incapable of being disregarded or neglected. Essential. Necessary. Imperative. An intelligent computer will be an indispensable diagnostic tool for doctors. The use of social media has become indispensable for promoting businesses. Modern computers will be an indispensable analytical tool for many companies. Gadget. Useful small tool or piece of equipment. Device. Appliance. Apparatus. These handy gadgets are available at most home improvement outlets. It's not enough that our electronic gadgets do every task we can imagine. We have been taking advantage of electronic gadgets more than ever before. Encryption. The process of converting information into a code. Coding. Secret writing. Programming. It is currently illegal to export this encryption technology from the USA. Data encryption ensures the privacy and confidentiality of email messages. Thus, any products containing encryption are subject to strict export controls. Robotics. The science of making and using robots. Artificial intelligence. Simulation. Cybernetics. Robotics is the making of pieces of equipment by automated equipment. A good robotic design achieves a high efficiency of motion transformation. Electronics companies have been making robotic toys that can imitate people. Framework. An essential supporting structure of an object. Structure. Configuration. Composition. The software provides a framework for understanding computer coding. All the cases can be considered within the framework of the existing rules. We need a framework for the project before we can determine the true cost. Satellite. Device sent up into space to travel around the Earth. Spaceship. Spacecraft. Rocket. The ceremony was transmitted live by satellite to over 50 countries. Continuous radio signals from those satellites are used widely for navigation. Satellites are fundamentally helping meteorologists to predict weather patterns. Patent. An exclusive right granted for an invention. Licensed. Proprietary. Trademarked. The company decided to buy up the patent for the new technology. The engineer decided to buy up the patent for his new machine design. The programmer hoped to buy up the patent for his new software program. Cybersecurity. The protection of Internet-connected systems. Computer security. Network security. Digital security. She has written books on cybersecurity, ethical hacking, and web defense. America's cybersecurity strategy must be dynamic and continually refreshed. They develop cybersecurity products for government agencies and enterprises. Database. An organized collection of related data or information. Archive. Catalog. Record. They have access to up-to-date information through a computer database. The new project is managed by the Common Database Management System. Fingerprints are scanned in a virtual database that is only accessible to police. Efficient. Working in a way that does not waste a resource. Well organized. Methodical. Systematic. The procedure is not fully efficient, improvements could be made. These capital cities have a highly efficient public transport system. A troubleshooter is being appointed to make the service more efficient. Forensic. Related to scientific methods of solving crimes. Judicial. Magisterial. Scientific. Forensic science plays a crucial role in the criminal justice system. The forensic team discovered a blood-soaked cloth behind the bed. The crime scene was thoroughly investigated by the forensic team. Fraudulent. Wrongful or criminal deception intended for financial gain. Dishonest. Deceitful. Deceptive. The travel agency was shut down for fraudulent vacation packages. The government focused on fraudulent activities to prevent corruption. Fraudulent businesses often change their names to avoid detection. Trespass. Enter someone's land or property without permission. Intrusion. Invasion. Wrong entry. Trespass against a government building is considered a federal offense. The wire fence was a challenge to climb for those attempting to trespass. If you trespass on private property, you may be fined for unauthorized entry. Assassination. The murder of someone famous or important person. Manslaughter. Homicide. Slaying. President Kennedy's assassination had far-reaching repercussions. Members of Parliament were outraged by the news of the assassination. They are already serving prison sentences for their part in the assassination. Deterrence. Preventing people from criminal behavior. Obstruction. Impediment. Prevention. The government implemented a policy of deterrence to prevent crime. Deterrence can be seen as a form of prevention rather than punishment. Nuclear deterrence is a strategy used by many countries to prevent war. Witness. A person who sees an event, typically a crime or accident. Observer. Onlooker. Spectator. Line up these men and see if the witness can recognize the criminal. At this time, the police are reluctant to talk about witness evidence. The detective team spent 2 years amassing evidence from witnesses. Victim. Someone who has been hurt or killed. Sufferer. Scapegoat. Hostage. The victim received head injuries from which she died a week later. The victim was taken to a hospital, where she was pronounced dead. So many people get it wrong and end up hurting the victim even more. Espionage. Secretly collecting and reporting information. Spying. Surveillance. Secret Service. The spy was skilled at machining complex espionage operations. Microdots are often used in espionage to transmit secret messages. The government has a countermeasure to prevent cyber espionage. Penalty. A punishment for doing something wrong. Punishment. Correction. Retribution. It is part of the contract that there is a penalty for late delivery. Some players claimed a penalty, but the referee told them to play on. The extreme penalty of the law in some countries is the death penalty. Delinquency. Crimes, especially committed by young people. Misbehavior. Wrongdoing. Misdeeds. Community involvement is crucial in preventing juvenile delinquency. The depraving influence of negative peer groups can lead to delinquency. Juvenile delinquency can have a negative impact on future opportunities. Conviction. Court's decision that someone is guilty. Adjudication. Sentence. Decree. The prosecutor was praised for their successful conviction rate. Because of his previous conviction, the judge refused to grant bail. The witness's testimony was instrumental in securing a conviction. Detention. The arrest or imprisonment of someone. Imprisonment. Incarceration. Confinement. He claimed that his detention by the authorities was unlawful. The juvenile offender was kept in detention with strict supervision. Arbitrary arrests and detention without trial were common in the past. Forfeiture. The loss of property as a penalty for wrongdoing. Seizure. Confiscation. Taking away. The forfeiture of his voting rights was a punishment for voter fraud. The forfeiture of his assets was a consequence of his illegal activities. The forfeiture of his passport prevented him from leaving the country. Suspect. To think or believe that someone is guilty. Offender. Perpetrator. Lawbreaker. The suspect of the hate crime was charged with a felony offense. The police were able to obtain a set of fingerprints from the suspect. She was a suspect of being involved in a money laundering operation. Plaintiff. A person who brings a legal action. Petitioner. Appellant. Prosecutor. The plaintiff's lawyer presented a compelling opening statement. The lawsuit was dismissed due to the plaintiff's nugatory claims. The plaintiff claimed that the correct procedures had not been followed. Verdict. An official judgment is made in court. Resolution. Punishment. Settlement. The judge is open to hearing arguments to dispute the verdict. The court's initial verdict in the police officer's trial set off serious riots. The lawyer suspected that the judge was bribed to arrive at a guilty verdict. Detective. A police officer who investigates crimes. Investigator. Scrutinizer. Police officer. When you're a detective, you learn to weigh people up quickly. It took a lot of detective work to discover the cause of the problem. A detective's work consists largely of forming and testing hypotheses. Hearsay. Information that is not substantiated is rumor. Invalid. Unofficial. Groundless. It is important to rely solely on facts rather than rumors or hearsay. Everything they had told him would have been ruled out as hearsay. We want to dispute the sentence because we think it's based on hearsay. Poaching. Illegal hunting or capturing of wild animals. Hunting. Killing illegally. Intruding. The penalty for poaching on royal estates used to be death by hanging. Poaching poses a huge threat to the survival of the animals in the forests. He supplemented his income by poaching, gambling, and out-and-out thieving. Defendant. A person who is being sued or accused. Respondent. Appellant. Litigant. The defendant is charged with a range of crimes, from theft to murder. The jury concluded from the evidence that the defendant was innocent. The defendant remained impassive as the judge sentenced him to death. Rehabilitation. To restore good health or useful life after a crime. Improvement. Correction. Betterment. The suspect was remanded to a juvenile drug court for rehabilitation. The offender was given community service as a means of rehabilitation. The rehabilitation program aims to address the root causes of reoffending. Abuse. Cruel and violent treatment of a person or animal. Maltreatment. Violence. Bullying. John received constant physical and psychological abuse from his father. In many cases, abuse can lead to both psychological and emotional problems. Drug abuse can cause memory loss and cognitive impairment for many people. Forgery. Crime that involves creating fake documents. Duplication. Mock-up. Falsification. She committed forgery and was imprisoned in jail for a year and a half. The Federal Reserve note is printed on special paper to prevent forgery. The defendant was charged with forgery upon creating fake credentials. Genocide. The deliberate killing of a large number of people. Massacre. Holocaust. Decimation. Ethnic cleansing is a form of genocide that targets specific ethnic groups. The law of nations prohibits acts of genocide and crimes against humanity. The country is still recovering from one of the worst genocides in modern times. Mugging. An act of attacking and robbing someone in a public place. Thievery. Pilfering. Stealing. Murders, kidnaps, and muggings are reported daily in the newspapers. The victim was injured during the mugging and required medical attention. The suspect was identified through CCTV footage from the mugging incident. Probation. A period of supervision over an offender. Evaluation. Appraisal. Assessment. He will be on probation for his involvement in the gang activity. If you violate the terms of probation, you may go back to jail. The employee was on probation for consistently being late to work. Trafficking. The activity of buying and selling goods or people illegally. Smuggling. Pirating. Exporting. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison on charges of drug trafficking. He announced a new task force, created to combat human trafficking. This scandal shows how arms trafficking has grown over the past decade. Vandalism. Action involving deliberate destruction of public property. Wrecking. Damage. Destruction. The vandalism had destroyed beyond repair the historical monument. The security cameras helped to identify suspects in the vandalism incident. The City Council launched a campaign to prevent vandalism in public spaces. Death sentence. The legal punishment of death for a crime. Death penalty. Death warrant. Execution. The extreme penalty of the law in some countries is the death sentence. They think that the death sentence is too severe a punishment for any crime. His most significant political achievement was the abolition of the death sentence. Jargon. Special words that are used in a particular field. Dialect. Vernacular. Terminology. His lectures were engaging, coherent, and unusually free of jargon. The article uses so much jargon we can never understand its explanations. In academic writing, we must write concisely, avoiding jargon and terminology. Experimental. Based on experience rather than on theory or authority. Exploratory. Investigational. Tentative. The human brain was thought to be inaccessible to experimental investigation. For the time being, however, immunotherapy is still in its experimental stages. The new plan for traffic control is being put into action on an experimental basis. Observation. An act of noticing or perceiving. Inspection. Examination. Study. These facts are based on close observation of the birds in the wild. This medical book contains observations about the causes of addictions. Most information was collected by direct observation of the animal's conduct. Homogeneous. Having qualities that are similar. Identical. Uniform. Alike. The nutrition class analyzed the benefits of a homogeneous diet. The soil on the farm needs to be homogeneous for planting crops. A glass of milk is a homogeneous mixture of water, fat, and protein. Instinct. The natural tendency of humans and animals. Intuition. Inclination. Tendency. A killer instinct can be developed through practice and hard work. The homing instinct in animals helps them find their way back home. These instincts are essential for survival in both real and virtual worlds. Evolution. The gradual development of plants and animals. Growth. Modification. Adaptation. Life is a thing that is capable of undergoing evolution by natural selection. Natural selection is a fundamental element of Darwin's theory of evolution. Food preparation seems closely linked to the evolution of our modern brains. Procedure. A particular way of doing something. Methodology. Formula. Approach. There is some confusion about what the correct procedure should be. Quality control procedures have been imposed throughout the research. The procedure is in strict conformity with standard international practices. Pseudoscience. Theory that is not formed in a scientific way. Wizardry. Black magic. Witchcraft. Pseudoscience has a nasty habit of reaching into every walk of life. Their interest in religion and the paranormal was not pseudoscience. It has been dismissed as a pseudoscience, sometimes downright dangerous. Empirical. Based on observation or experience. Pragmatic. Realistic. Applied. Our data is based on empirical evidence collected in numerous studies. The work has a strong empirical base, but it is firmly governed by theory. Empirical studies indicate that some forms of alternative medicine are effective. Depletion. Reduction in the amount or number of something. Reduction. Lessening. Exhaustion. The depletion of natural resources could endanger future generations. Responsible use of resources can prevent depletion through conservation. Increased consumption of water has led to the depletion of groundwater reserves. Microorganisms. An organism that is microscopic, or submicroscopic. Pathogens. Bacteria. Parasites. Methanogens are a type of microorganism that produces methane gas. The phosphate was deposited by the decay of marine microorganisms. Algae microorganisms colonize the water because of the surplus nitrogen. Meteorology. Meteorology is the study of our atmosphere. Climatology. Weather science. Aerology. The line function in meteorology helps us predict the path of a storm. The standard atmosphere is a unit of measurement used in meteorology. Radiometers are commonly used in meteorology to study solar radiation. Hypothesis. An assumption that is made based on some evidence. Premise. Supposition. Assumption. The statistics to prove or disprove his hypothesis will take years to collect. Her study is based on the hypothesis that language simplification is possible. The authors reject the hypothesis about unemployment contributing to crime. Obsolete. No longer produced or used because something newer exists. Outdated. Outmoded. Old-fashioned. So much equipment becomes obsolete almost as soon as it's made. The outdated printing press was considered obsolete in the digital age. Many people believe the internet has made the postal service obsolete. Carnivorous. Relating to a person, animal, or other living thing that eats meat. Meat-eating. Flesh-eating. Predatory. A snake is a carnivorous reptile that eats rodents and other animals. The carnivorous plant uses its pitcher-shaped leaves to catch insects. The lion is a carnivorous animal that preys on other animals for food. Chain reaction. A chemical reaction produces energy. Domino effect. Repercussion. Aftermath. Increased oil prices could trigger a chain reaction in the economy. The assumption is that positive thoughts start a positive chain reaction. The powder immediately ignited and set off a chain reaction of explosions. Germination. The process of seed starting to grow. Sprouting. Maturation. Flourishing. The process of germination is essential for the growth of any plant. The germination process can be affected by temperature fluctuations. The germination rate can be improved by pre-soaking the seeds in water. Perennial. Lasting or existing for a long or apparently infinite time. Enduring. Year by year. Continuing. Lack of resources has been a perennial problem since the beginning. The rose is a perennial plant, which means it comes back every year. The perennial debate over gun control continues to divide the nation. Reproduction. The act or process of producing babies. Breeding. Conception. Procreation. Scientists have studied the reproduction, diet, and health of the dolphins. A copy machine can be used for reproduction of the company handbook. The artist's reproduction of Starry Night closely resembles the original piece. Inference. Opinions based on information. Conclusion. Deduction. Judgment. From his manner, we drew the inference that he was satisfied. If you use good judgment in inference, you can make better decisions. A necessary inference can be made from the context of the conversation. Nurture. Provide necessary care for someone or something. Raise. Nourish. Support. Money is arguing for a continual interaction between nature and nurture. The company was able to nurture its growth despite the economic downturn. Parents always want to know the best way to nurture and raise their children. Formula. Plan or method for dealing with something. Theory. Principle. Equation. The medical team offered a simple formula for a long and happy life. Clever exploitation of the technology would be a sure formula for success. The goods are made using a secret formula that the company refuses to reveal. Heredity. Passing on traits from parents to their offspring. Genetics. Ancestry. Inheritance. The moral characters of men are formed not by heredity but by environment. Diet and exercise can influence a person's weight, but heredity is also a factor. The aspects of our nature are determined by heredity and not by environment. Evaporation. Process of turning from a liquid into vapor. Dissipation. Fading. Vanishing. The hot sun caused the water in the oasis to shed a layer of evaporation. The physical quantity of water in the lake is decreasing due to evaporation. The rate of evaporation depends on the temperature and humidity of the air. Momentum. The force or speed of an object in motion. Impetus. Propulsion. Driving force. Keep your momentum and you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. The campaign has been gaining momentum ever since the media appeal. The spacecraft will fly around the Earth to gain momentum for its trip to Jupiter. Wavelength. The distance between two waves of energy. Frequency. Density. Magnitude. The wavelength is dependent on the frequency and the speed of sound. The wavelength of a radio wave is much longer than that of a light wave. Short wavelength radiation is more energetic than long wavelength radiation. Metabolism. All the chemical processes in the living body. Digestion. Absorption. Consumption. Drinking plenty of water can help promote melanin metabolism. There are many enzymes involved in the metabolism of glycogen. We should consume sufficient calories to keep the metabolism resilient. Herbivorous. Animals, or other living things that eat grass and plants. Vegetarian. Grass-eating. Plant-eating. The Canada goose is a herbivorous bird, feeding on grasses and grains. Muskrats are primarily herbivorous, feeding on aquatic plants and roots. The plant toxin is a natural defense mechanism against herbivorous insects. Genetic. Relating to origin, or arising from a common origin. Inborn. Hereditary. Biological. The offspring contain a mixture of the genetic blueprint of each parent. Each person's genetic code is unique except in the case of identical twins. DNA carries the genetic blueprint which tells any organism how to build itself. Obesity. The state or condition of being very fat or overweight. Fatness. Corpulence. Chubbiness. The number of people affected by obesity is a public health concern. The data shows a correlation between sugar consumption and obesity. Regular exercise can reduce the risk of obesity and related health problems. Chronic. Something continues over an extended period. Continuous. Persistent. Prolonged. Research shows that those suffering from chronic illnesses benefit from exercise. Signs of chronic mental illnesses like schizophrenia may first show up in childhood. 10,000 deaths a year from chronic lung disease are attributable to smoking. Panacea. A solution or remedy for all difficulties or diseases. Relief. Universal remedy. Magic formula. Medical researchers are still searching for a panacea to cure all viruses. Panacea is a term that is often used in discussions about healthcare reform. Regular physical activity confers many health benefits, but it's not a panacea. Impediment. A hindrance or obstruction in doing something. Handicap. Hurdle. Barrier. Hope's physical impediment restricted her from walking long distances. The limited access to healthcare was an impediment to their well-being. The speech impediment made it difficult for the student to communicate. Vegetarian. The practice of not eating meat, for good health. Vegan. Plant-based. Herbivorous. Some people prefer a vegetarian diet, while others prefer a meat-based diet. Her mother is a vegetarian and uses a lot of lentils in her day-to-day cooking. Many researchers believe that we can save the planet if we all go vegetarian. Sedentary. Spending a lot of time sitting down or not being active. Sluggish. Stationary. Inactive. People with sedentary lifestyles have a greater risk of heart attacks. Sedentary lifestyles can contribute to poor sleep quality and insomnia. Risk factors include sedentary lifestyle, reduced physical exercise, and smoking. Aerobics. A physical fitness program based on some exercises. Workout. Gymnastics. Training. He finds aerobics to be a great way to relieve stress and clear his mind. Aerobics is a great way to improve lung capacity and respiratory health. They enroll in aerobic sessions which are usually performed in small groups. Anorexia. An eating disorder characterized by low body weight. Skinniness. Boniness. Thinness. Anorexia nervosa is a serious eating disorder that affects many individuals. People with anorexia often have a distorted perception of their bodies. Treatment for anorexia typically involves therapy and nutritional counseling. Dehydration. An abnormal loss of water from the body. Dryness. Thirstiness. Evaporation. Dry heat can cause dehydration and fatigue during outdoor activities. Diarrhea leads to dehydration unless fluids are taken to replace the loss. Water is the most important source of hydration to meet the body's needs. Depression. Feelings of severe hopelessness and gloominess. Unhappiness. Dolefulness. Sadness. The symptoms of depression can include poor appetite and weight loss. We know people who committed suicide and their children suffer depression. The study has found that chocolate has a chemical that helps fight depression. Endurance. The ability to endure an unpleasant or difficult situation. Durability. Continuity. Stability. Running a marathon is seen by many as the ultimate test of endurance. The exercise program is designed to increase both strength and endurance. He had remarkable powers of endurance against the toughest physical torment. Hygienic. Maintaining health and preventing disease by being clean. Wholesome. Healthy. Salubrious. A consistent cleaning regimen can keep your house clean and hygienic. The hospital has clean and hygienic toilet facilities for patients and visitors. A hygienic approach to food preparation helps prevent foodborne illnesses. Immunity. Your body's ability to resist and fight infection and disease. Resistance. Protection. Tolerance. Practicing good hygiene can help improve immunity from infections. High levels of stress may lower your immunity to common illnesses. The vaccination gives you immunity against the disease for up to 6 months. Outbreak. A sudden occurrence of something unwelcome, such as disease. Outburst. Explosion. Inception. The contaminated water caused a diarrhea outbreak in the community. The food poisoning outbreak was a disaster that affected many people. The recent outbreak of a new virus has caused alarm about public health. Prevention. The action of stopping something from happening or arising. Obstruction. Blockage. Deterrence. Cure by prevention is a proactive way to take control of your health. Researchers investigate malaria to develop effective prevention strategies. As far as health is concerned, it's a truism that prevention is better than cure. Respiration. The process in living organisms of taking in oxygen. Exhalation. Inhalation. Breathing. External respiration is regulated by the respiratory center in the brain. Biologically, the process of respiration is how organisms produce energy. External respiration is essential for the production of energy in the body. Trauma. A deeply distressing or disturbing experience. Anguish. Grief. Distress. Children experience trauma differently according to developmental level. It shows that laughter helps people recover from trauma and tolerate pain. The family was treated for trauma after their house was destroyed by the tornado. Vulnerable. Able to be easily hurt, influenced, or attacked. Liable. Endangered. At risk. Old people are often particularly vulnerable members of our society. People with high blood pressure are especially vulnerable to diabetes. Some youngsters are very vulnerable, especially if they have asthma. Junk food. Packaged food that has low nutritional value. Fast food. Canned food. Frozen food. Make sure your child eats healthy, nourishing food as opposed to junk food. Eating too much junk food is harmful to your body and can lead to obesity. Eating a healthy snack beforehand, the temptation to eat junk food is reduced. Balanced diet. Eating a wide variety of foods in the right proportions. Dietary regime. Food restriction. Starvation. Man cannot live by bread alone, and everyone needs a balanced diet. Eating a balanced diet would be optimal for healthy pregnancy results. A balanced diet and daily physical exercise are the keys to a healthy lifestyle. Deteriorate. To make or become worse or lower in quality. Degenerate. Decay. Become worse. Your mental health can deteriorate from constant stress and anxiety. As we age, our eyesight may deteriorate, making it harder to see clearly. The mental health of students can deteriorate due to academic pressure. Allergic. Having a strong dislike of something or an aversion. Sensitive. Susceptible. Hostile. Certain foods are more likely than others to cause allergic reactions. These warning signs range from sore throats to severe allergic reactions. If you think you may be allergic to a food or drink, eliminate it from your diet. Malnutrition. Physical weakness caused by having too little food. Famine. Malnourishment. Poor diet. Skipping meals can be harmful to your body and can lead to malnutrition. The scarcity of food during the famine led to widespread malnutrition. Many children in impoverished countries die from malnutrition every year. Addictive. It makes you want more of it so that you become addicted. Obsessive. Compulsive. Irresistible. Living dangerously can be addictive and lead to dangerous behavior. The addictive nature of social media can be detrimental to mental health. Some medicines can be addictive, so we should only take them as prescribed. Culinary. The practice of cookery or the activity of cooking. Eatable. Appetizing. Palatable. The use of garlic for culinary purposes dates back several centuries. Because I am interested in cooking, I am planning to attend culinary school. My friend is a culinary expert and helped me choose the menu for the party. Epidemic. A widespread outbreak of an infectious disease. Pandemic. Plague. Upsurge. We need to cover our mouths when we cough during an epidemic. The epidemic was a disaster that spread quickly and caused many deaths. The epidemic showed the importance of having a strong healthcare system. Relaxation. The state of being free from tension and anxiety. Tranquility. Self-care. Refreshment. This relaxation technique can serve as an effective weapon against stress. Learning a natural relaxation is a good technique, such as deep breathing. Many stress-induced illnesses can be prevented with relaxation techniques. Infancy. The state or period of babyhood or early childhood. Babyhood. Formative years. Springtime. Infancy is a time of developing the ability to imitate and mimic others. Deaths during infancy have fallen dramatically in the last 100 years. The sleep phase is typically longer during infancy and decreases with age. Nutrient. Anything that nourishes a living being. Nourishing. Wholesome. Salutary. Drinking a glass of milk with your meals can help boost nutrient intake. A poor diet, with low nutrient snacks, can lead to nutritional deficiencies. Zinc is an important nutrient for the growth and development of children. Stamina. The physical or mental strength to do something. Energy. Strength. Hardiness. Jumping rope can help improve your stamina and coordination. Running can be a great way to improve your endurance and stamina. Despite her lack of stamina, she managed to complete the difficult task. Cardiac. Connected with the heart or heart disease. Coronary. Vascular. Pulmonary. Cardiac output increases during exercise, but it decreases during rest. The cardiac valve is responsible for regulating blood flow in the heart. The patient's cardiac pacemaker was removed after successful treatment. Inflation. Increase in prices over a given period. Economic decline. Depression. Standstill. Inflation measures how quickly the prices of goods and services are rising. Due to inflation, his salary is actually lower in value than it was a year ago. Now, reducing inflation is fundamental to the government's economic strategy. Liability. The state of being legally responsible for something. Accountability. Responsibility. Compulsion. The company maintains liability insurance for its directors and officers. Federal campaign laws require candidates to disclose their assets and liabilities. The company cannot accept liability for any damage caused by natural disasters. Guarantor. An organization that promises to pay back a loan. Patron. Benefactor. Warrantor. The obligors were required to provide a guarantor to secure the loan. Renting a property without a guarantor can be difficult for some individuals. The lender may require a guarantor to ensure the borrower's debt-paying ability. Monopoly. Complete control of something. Domination. Suppression. Authority. During each war, the monopoly capitalists amassed fabulous wealth. The company was forced to relinquish its monopoly on the industry. In the past, central government had a monopoly on television broadcasting. Logistics. The handling of the details of an operation. Distribution. Supply. Transportation. The supply chain management will be nailed down by the logistics team. The computer database is used to track and manage shipping and logistics. Our third-party logistics and distribution network covers the United States. Stagnation. A long period of slow economic growth. Inactivity. Unproductively. Downturn. The housing market is expected to resurge after a period of stagnation. The country's economic stagnation is a result of excessive bureaucracy. The prolonged economic stagnation is causing businesses to close down. Merger. A combination of two things, especially companies, into one. Amalgamation. Unification. Incorporation. The airline is currently having merger talks with an unidentified rival. Previously, he served as National Director for Mergers and Acquisitions. Hundreds of people lost their jobs as a direct consequence of the merger. Acquisition. The act of acquiring or gaining possession. Gaining. Attainment. Takeover. The company intends to grow within itself rather than by acquisition. The company's acquisition of a competitor cost over $1 billion. The acquisition of new technology has revolutionized many industries. Hierarchy. The organizational structure of a company. Ranking. Ordering. Grouping. The government has a complex hierarchy of agencies and departments. A new management hierarchy was created within the company recently. She worked her way up through the corporate hierarchy to become president. Commodity. Something that is bought and sold. Goods. Products. Article of trade. Time is a precious commodity that should be used purposefully. The commodity market witnessed a trade down against global demand. Water is a precious commodity that is often taken for granted in the West. Negotiation. A method by which people settle conflicts. Discussion. Argument. Consultation. The lease agreement was extended during the negotiation process. The boss and the employee had a negotiation about the promotion. Many companies have developed a new method of customer negotiations. Outsourcing. Hire a third party to perform tasks. Subcontracting. Deploying. Delegating. The company is outsourcing some of its skilled labor to reduce costs. Outsourcing work has become a popular practice in the business world. The outsourcing of certain functions made several employees redundant. Entrepreneurial. Willing to take risks in order to make a profit. Enterprising. Innovative. Self-employed. Your creativity will shine through in your entrepreneurial endeavors. The concept of innovation underpins many entrepreneurial ventures. Westerners are known for their entrepreneurial spirit and innovation. Bankruptcy. When a business is unable to pay debts. Insolvency. Crash. Failure. They were unable to repay the debt and had to declare bankruptcy. The reason for the company's bankruptcy was due to mismanagement. Bankruptcy has now been a common phenomenon in the business industry. Consumerism. Increasing consumption of goods. Materialism. Commercialism. Altruism. The industrialized countries have a strong emphasis on consumerism. American shopping malls and supermarkets are palaces of consumerism. The acceleration of modernism began with the start of modern consumerism. Leverage refers to the ability to generate profit. Support. Strength. Advantage. A skilled negotiator knows how to use leverage to their advantage. The organization aims to leverage resources to improve its efficiency. Big companies can leverage a very small investment into millions of dollars. Layoff. Permanent removal from a job. Redundant. Dismissed. Out of work. The layoff was a result of the company's poor financial management. The notice of layoff mentioned the possibility of rehiring in the future. She was forced to discontinue employment due to a company-wide layoff. Capitalism. An economic system based on the private ownership. Free market. Open market. Free trade. The institutions of manufacturing capitalism gradually spread worldwide. Marx and his followers were convinced that capitalism would destroy itself. With capitalism, people are motivated by the idea of personal profit and success. Recession. A prolonged downturn in the economy. Negative growth. Decline. Bust. The country was gripped by recession and interest rates were soaring. Wage increases are being kept to a minimum because of the recession. The rise in unemployment is seen as indicative of a new economic recession. Benchmarking. Process of measuring products and services. Evaluating. Appraising. Reviewing. They are planning to launch a benchmarking scheme to guide consumers. Benchmarking can help us see how we're doing compared to previous years. Monitoring performance allows for benchmarking against industry standards. Allowance. Money allotted for a particular purpose. Allotment. Contribution. Donation. The company provides a travel expense allowance for all employees. Effective money management means saving some of your allowance. Staffs who transfer to a different office will receive a transport allowance. Royalties. Payment for intellectual property. Commission. Premium. Percentage. The patent owner received royalties from licensing their invention. The income from the book sales will go towards the author's royalties. The musicians made an agreement on the royalties for their collaboration. Deregulation. The removal of controls in a particular area of business. Liberalization. Neutrality. Inaction. The real estate industry is pushing for deregulation of zoning laws. Critics argue that deregulation can lead to unsafe working conditions. The fashion industry is divided on the issue of deregulation of labor laws. Treasury. The department that controls public money. Depository. Exchequer. Register. Many retirees rely on the income generated by Treasury securities. Some investors use Treasury bonds as collateral for borrowing funds. The Department of the Treasury manages the federal credit programs. Depression. A long and severe recession in an economy or market. Slowdown. Standstill. Downturn. The economic depression caused a decline in the value of the currency. Depression always goes hand in hand with a high rate of unemployment. The economic depression forced many families to rely on government assistance. Fiscal year. A fiscal year is also known as a financial year. Budget year. Tax year. Financial year. They are ready to cut the federal budget deficit for the next fiscal year. The company decided to conduct an audit near the end of the fiscal year. The chairman of the board approved the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Agenda. A list of items to be discussed at a formal meeting. Catalogue. Framework. Scheme. Many of the coalition members could have their own business agendas. The financial advisor of the company has an agenda for the investment plan. The committee set the agenda for the next several years of economic research. Assets. Something valuable that a person or business owns. Belongings. Possessions. Holdings. The company's assets were liquidated during the bankruptcy process. Asset allocation accounts for 90% of wealth generation over time. He considered that the greatest asset of a bank was its reputation for integrity. Workflow. How something goes from being undone to done. Strategy. Methodology. Approach. They were a great group, but the workflow proved perilously slow. The manager systematizes the workflow to ensure smooth operations. Effective line management ensures smooth workflow and productivity. Universe. The sum of everything that exists in the cosmos. Whole world. Outer space. Infinity. Early astronomers thought that our planet was the center of the universe. Explorers continue to look for life outside our universe but have yet to find it. We live in a universe that looks like it has plenty of room for us to expand into. Galaxy. A large group of stars that contains the solar system. Constellation. Cluster. Star system. Our system is just one of many in the galaxy that might be able to support life. Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system, but not the biggest in the galaxy. The two most common types of galaxies are globular galaxies and spiral galaxies. Aurora. A natural light display that occurs in the skies. Polar light. Shimmering. Blazing. The aurora borealis in the northern sky glows brightly with vibrant colors. The aurora borealis is a phenomenon that has inspired myths and legends. The aurora is a great example of how science can explain natural phenomena. Dark matter. Stuff in space that has gravity, but it is invisible. Black stuff. Antimatter. Black mass. The missing component is known as dark matter and its nature is unknown. The center focuses on research into the nature of dark matter and dark energy. Dark energy and dark matter are both forms of zero-point vacuum fluctuations. Spectrum. Intensity of light as it varies with wavelength or frequency. Amplitude. Ubiquity. Prism. The energy of a photon is related to its color by the visible spectrum. The atomic spectrum of helium is used to study the properties of stars. Radio waves have the longest wavelength on the electromagnetic spectrum. Astrophysics. The study of stars and other objects in space. Astronomy. Astrography. Stargazing. He eventually graduated with a Bachelor of Astrophysics at London University. They provide courses in the fields of physics, astrophysics, and mathematics. His other scientific interests concern cosmology and high-energy astrophysics. Outer space. The physical universe beyond the Earth's atmosphere. Deep space. Empty space. Infinity. The scientist was sent on a mission to conduct experiments in outer space. Cosmic radiation is a natural phenomenon that originates from outer space. The spaceship was able to fly through outer space and explore new galaxies. Navigation. The act of directing ships and aircraft from different places. Maneuvering. Piloting. Gliding. If you're going to be a good pilot, you need to master navigation. Continuous radio signals from those satellites are used widely for navigation. In the past, navigation depended on a knowledge of the positions of the stars. Telescope. An instrument that is used to view distant objects. Spyglass. Optical prism. Magnifier. The Space Telescope has taken the clearest pictures ever of Pluto. A low-power telescope is enough if you only want to look at the Moon. This is a telescope that penetrates the remote parts of the universe. Observatory. A position or building that gives an extensive view. Watchtower. Beacon. Lookout. The Royal Observatory was established to observe and catalogue the stars. The observatory has 2 telescopes to detect microwave and infrared light. The observatory is now financed chiefly by the National Science Foundation. Supernova. A powerful and luminous explosion of a star. Blank space. Dark matter. Cosmic dust. The explosion of a supernova can create a neutron star or a black hole. The energy released during a supernova explosion is astronomically powerful. A supernova can outshine an entire galaxy of stars and leave striking remnants. Wavelength. The distance between 2 waves of energy. Visible light. Frequency. Amplitude. The wavelength is dependent on the frequency and the speed of sound. Light is made up of different wavelengths, which the brain perceives as color. For example, red light has a longer wavelength than green, and green than blue. Eclipse. When the Sun, Earth, or Moon cross paths and cover each other. Blocking. Covering. Shading. An eclipse happens when the Earth and Moon are in line with the Sun. Solar eclipses can occur up to 5 times a year, although that is rare. The total eclipse was an once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see a rare phenomenon. Corona. A usually colored circle is seen around the Sun. Radiance. Circle of light. Crown of light. The corona is usually hidden by the bright light of the Sun's surface. Looking at small details, we find that the corona has a delicate structure. That study enables astronomers to compare stellar coronae with the solar corona. Luminosity. The state of producing or reflecting bright light. Brightness. Splendor. Fluorescence. The maximum density of a star can determine its luminosity and lifespan. The red giant star's luminosity is thousands of times greater than our Sun. The white dwarf's luminosity is much lower than that of a main sequence star. Nebula. A giant cloud of dust and gas in space. Rain cloud. Exhaust fumes. Fogginess. The astronomer used a powerful telescope to study the nebula in detail. It is estimated that a nebula is immense, hundreds of light-years in diameter. The nebula's distance from Earth made it a popular target for space missions. Gravity. The force that attracts a body towards the center of the Earth. Attraction. Potency. Intensity. There is a careful balance of heat and gravity holding the planet in place. Newton formulated the principle of gravity while sitting under an apple tree. In space, astronauts can't cry because there is no gravity, so the tears can't flow. Satellite. A device sent up into space to travel around the Earth. Spacecraft. Rocket. Spaceship. A satellite is a natural object in space that moves around a planet or star. The first artificial satellite on the Moon was the Soviet Union probe Luna 10. A single satellite is able to provide coverage to a larger area than a phone tower. Asteroid. Millions of small celestial objects orbit the Sun. Fireball. Meteorite. Comet. They detected asteroid was close to Earth even though it was far away. This event has helped to spark discussion of asteroid impact avoidance. Evidence supports the theory that the dinosaurs were wiped out by asteroids. Milky Way. The galaxy in which we live contains the stars. Heavenly body. Celestial body. Nebula. Most galaxies, such as the Milky Way, contain about 100 billion stars. Some astronomers thought nebulae were part of our Milky Way galaxy. Just as Earth orbits the Sun, the solar system orbits the center of the Milky Way. Rotation. The action of rotating about an axis or center. Revolution. Spinning. Revolving. The North Pole is where the rotation of the Earth intersects the Earth's surface. It takes 24 hours for the Earth to complete its rotation on its axis. The axis of rotation is an imaginary line that runs through the Earth's center. Epoch. A long period of time in the Earth's development. Point of history. Millennium. Generation. The invention of the spaceship was an epoch-making milestone in aviation. The moon landing was an epoch-making achievement for space exploration. The space science revolution marked the beginning of a new epoch in history. Black hole. A place where things disappear without a trace. Emptiness. Great void. Vacuum. A black hole is a cosmic entity that has a strong gravitational pull. The apparent magnitude of the black hole was impossible to measure. The center of a galaxy is where the supermassive black hole is located. Albedo. The ratio of the intensity of light reflected from an object. Reflectivity. Luminosity. Absorptivity. The albedo of a surface can affect the amount of energy needed for heating. The albedo of the ocean surface plays a role in regulating global temperatures. The measurement accuracy of the sun sensor is influenced by the Earth's albedo. Cosmic rays. Particles from outer space travel across the universe. Radiation. Cosmic particles. Space radiation. Cosmic ray particles are not directly observed on the surface of Earth. The study of cosmic rays has led to advancements in particle physics. The spacecraft was designed to break into cosmic rays and collect data. Crater. A large hole in the top of a volcano. Hollow. Abyss. Crevasse. The astronaut described the massive crater within the Moon's surface. The impact of the meteor created a massive crater in between the fields. The archaeology team discovered a hidden crater inside the ancient ruins. Extragalactic. Originating or existing outside the Milky Way galaxy. Intergalactic. Cosmological. Circumstellar. The extragalactic distance required a long exposure time for observation. The extragalactic observations provided evidence for the Big Bang theory. Hubble was the first astronomer to detect the existence of extragalactic stars. Solar System. The Sun and the group of planets that move around it. Cosmos. The void. Outer space. The team has discovered more than 30 planets outside the solar system. Their suggestion requires the presence of comets in the outer solar system. It's mind-boggling to think that our solar system is only one among billions. Cosmology. The study of the nature and origin of the universe. Astronomy. Planets. Galaxies. Dark matter and energy are theoretical solutions to problems in cosmology. Modern cosmology relies on advanced telescopes and mathematical models. The Big Bang theory is a cornerstone of modern cosmology and astrophysics. Light year. The distance that light can travel in 1 year. Solar year. Cosmic space. Tropical year. The light year is a way to comprehend the immense scale of the universe. The light year is a concept in understanding the age and size of the universe. A light year is a unit of measurement used to describe astronomical distances. Constellation. A group of stars in the sky. Stars. Cluster. Stellar system. The globular arrangement of the stars formed a beautiful constellation. The Andromeda constellation is home to several notable deep sky objects. People can use the figure shaped by a constellation to recognize specific stars. Astronomer. A scientist who studies the objects in the sky. Astrophysicist. Astrologist. Cosmologist. A super lens was being developed by Harvard astronomer Jim Baker. These different readings resulted in different reports from each astronomer. A meeting of professional and amateur astronomers was hosted by the media. Inundation. Covering normally dry land with a large amount of water. Flash flood. Overflow. Flooding. The heavy monsoon rains caused an inundation in the low-lying areas. The heavy rainfall caused an inundation of water in the city's sewer system. The increased risk of inundation would require even higher sea walls for defense. Erosion. Removal of surface material from Earth's crust. Damage. Corrosion. Weathering. These measures will help to reduce erosion caused by wind or rain. Many cities have been threatened by the erosion of the river banks. Now, poor farming methods have contributed to increased soil erosion. Biodegradable. Decaying naturally, not harmful to the environment. Decomposable. Perishable. Eco-friendly. The packaging for this product is made from biodegradable materials. Plastic bottles are not biodegradable and can harm the environment. The company had falsely claimed that its products were biodegradable. Recycling. Process of converting waste into reusable material. Reusing. Reprocessing. Converting. The supermarket has installed recycling bins for old bottles and cans. One of the primary benefits of recycling is the reduction in landfill waste. We are all for conserving our resources, recycling plastic and newspapers. Conservation. The act of protecting Earth's natural resources. Preservation. Maintenance. Saving. Poaching remains one of the biggest threats to tiger conservation. These action plans will primarily tackle wildlife conservation issues. They launched a week-long campaign to promote energy conservation. Extinction. A situation in which something no longer exists. annihilation, elimination, abolition. The conservation of wildlife is important to prevent their extinction. The alarming rate of species extinction is a sign of an ecological crisis. The society was set up to preserve endangered species from extinction. Biomass. The total mass of living organisms such as plants, animals. Biofuel. Organic matter. Bioenergy. Food, wood, and the organic wastes of animals and plants are biomass. Biomass is a renewable resource that can be used for energy production. Many countries are investing in biomass energy as a sustainable solution. Habitat. The natural home or environment of an animal and plant. Territory. Natural home. Dwelling. The forest provides a habitat for hundreds of species of plants and animals. Many species are threatened in the wild due to habitat destruction by man. Some species have nearly died out because their habitat is being destroyed. Ecosystem. All the plants and animals that live in a particular area. Bionetwork. Biosphere. Surroundings. In reality, the ecosystem suffers from alternating floods and droughts. The newcomers can pose a threat to biodiversity by altering ecosystems. Pollution can have disastrous effects on the delicately balanced ecosystem. Adaptation. Adjustment to environmental conditions. Modification. Change. Acclimatization. The book describes the adaptation of desert species to hot conditions. The process of adaptation to a new habitat is difficult for some animals. Most living creatures are capable of adaptation when compelled to do so. Inhospitable. Places are not easy or comfortable to live in. Adverse. Unfavorable. Miserable. The harsh aridity of the climate makes it inhospitable for some animals. The atmospheric conditions on Pluto are extremely cold and inhospitable. The nuclear meltdown wiped out around 100 square miles of inhospitable land. Consumerism. The act that promotes the acquisition of goods. Materialism. Avarice. Capitalism. Consumerism is the belief that it is good to buy and use a lot of goods. Consumerism often creates the problem of a false sense of happiness. The rise of consumerism has led to an increase in materialistic values. Deforestation. The cutting down of trees in a large area. Logging. Uncovering. Desertification. Conserving the rainforest means protecting it from deforestation. The amount of deforestation happening in the world is outrageous. The delicate balance of the ecosystem was threatened by deforestation. Sustainability. The ability to be maintained at a certain rate. Survivability. Durability. Tolerability. The Sustainability Club made reusable shopping bags out of burlap. The windmill down on the riverbank was a symbol of sustainability. The community environmental group works to promote sustainability. Organic. Being or coming from living plants and animals. Biological. Natural. Chemical-free. We are conducting a survey of consumer attitudes towards organic food. Generally, organic food is produced without artificial chemicals or pesticides. Eating organic food reduces one's chances of developing certain types of cancers. Ecotourism. Travel to natural areas, conserving the environment. Nature tourism. Green tourism. Wilderness. We should protect our natural environment and support ecotourism. Local communities consider ecotourism an effort to save their cultural heritage. Conserving natural habitats can provide economic benefits through ecotourism. Fossil fuel. Fuels are made from decomposing plants and animals. Petrol. Gasoline. Kerosene. Shale oil is a fossil fuel, extracted from shale rocks through heat. Biofuels are becoming increasingly popular as an alternative to fossil fuels. A major cause of climate change is the burning of fossil fuels to create energy. Hazard. An unavoidable danger, or risk. Jeopardy. Endangerment. Peril. Sunlight may be a hazard, and some patients dread summer holidays. Potential hazards will need to be identified through a safety assessment. Growing levels of pollution represent a health hazard to the local community. Biodiversity. Describe the enormous variety of life on Earth. Diversity of life. Variety. Diverseness. The geography of a place can impact its wildlife and biodiversity. Ecotourism can support biodiversity and protect endangered species. If we lose biodiversity, some animals and plants might become extinct. Heatwave. A continuous period of very hot weather. Droughts. Hot spells. Swelter. The heat wave caused record-setting temperatures across the region. As a result of the heat wave, many people suffered from dehydration. The city faced a barrage of power outages during the summer heat wave. Emissions. Something that has been emitted, or released. Discharges. Ejections. Exhausts. Human emissions of greenhouse gases are causing the Earth to warm. The factory was fined for excessive emissions of pollutants into the air. Industrialized countries must take action to reduce their carbon emissions. Mitigation. Reducing the force or intensity of something. Alleviation. Relief. Lessening. Anticipating problems is a crucial part of risk management and mitigation. The government is proposing a change policy on climate change mitigation. The bill on climate change mitigation is necessary to combat global warming. Contamination. The process of making something dirty or poisonous. Adulteration. Poisoning. Pollution. The contamination of the river caused harm to the local wildlife. Microbial contamination of medical equipment can cause infections. The contaminant in the water was causing groundwater contamination. Vulnerable. Capable of being physically or emotionally attacked. Susceptible. Unprotected. At risk. The bird's nest is vulnerable to the slightest whim of the weather. People from coastal areas are particularly vulnerable to natural calamities. Plants that are growing vigorously are less likely to be vulnerable to disease. Greenhouse. A special structure that is designed to regulate the temperature. Glasshouse. Conservatory. Hothouse. The huge destruction of forests is contributing to the greenhouse effect. It is important to maintain a constant temperature inside the greenhouse. There must be new cuts in greenhouse gas emissions to stop global warming. Poaching. The illegal hunting or capturing of wild animals. Hunting. Killing illegally. Intruding. The antelope population is threatened by habitat loss and poaching. The anti-poaching efforts have helped to protect endangered species. Chimpanzees are endangered due to habitat loss, poaching, and disease. Methane. Flammable gas which is the main constituent of natural gas. Hydrocarbon. Propane. Petroleum. Global warming occurs when methane accumulates in the atmosphere. And methane emissions aren't the only hazard that stems from the landfill. Methane is one of the principal gases contributing to the greenhouse effect. Desertification. The process by which land changes into desert. Desert land. Arid. Erosion. Nearly 1/5 of the world's land is threatened with desertification. The erosion of the soil caused by overfarming can lead to desertification. Land desertification is the main ecological problem of the Northwest Inland Basin. Censorship. Prohibition of any parts of books, films, or news. Banning. Suppression. Restriction. The authoritarian regime was known for its strict censorship laws. The book was banned in some countries according to censorship laws. The existence of censorship in media can limit freedom of expression. Data privacy. Practice of protecting digital information from unauthorized access. Data security. Confidentiality. Data protection. It has been difficult to get any answers due to the new data privacy policy. All users have extensive control over their own data and privacy settings. Parliament has passed these laws to protect the data privacy of radio users. Misleading. Causing someone to believe something that is not true. Fallacious. Deceitful. Inaccurate. Some of these statements are misleading and some downright mendacious. Diplomats can be a notoriously unreliable and misleading source of information. The article was misleading, and the newspaper has apologized for its reporting. Disseminate. Spread or give out something, especially news or information. Broadcast. Distribute. Communicate. If you are going to disseminate false information, then don't share it at all. The goal is to quickly disseminate information about changing conditions. The organization's aim is to disseminate information about new social trend. Influencer. A person who uses social media to sell products. Promoter. Supporter. Spokesperson. We have been experiencing the popularity of influencers on social media. She was finally able to quit and focus on her career as an influencer full-time. Being an influencer is now a fully-fledged career choice and not just a hobby. Bias. A preference for one thing over another. favoritism, unfairness, one-sidedness. The survey was conducted in a neutral manner to avoid any bias. His reasoning was based on personal bias, making them unreliable. News reporters must be impartial in publishing and not show political bias. Trend. Currently popular, especially on social media. Prevailing. Fashionable. Well-liked. The rise in violent crime is a disturbing trend in modern society. Read articles on specialist websites that focus on trends in your industry. Lately, there has been a trend toward hiring younger, cheaper employees. Mainstream. Accepted by the largest number of people. Conventional. Regular. Ordinary. The musician's compositions are uninfluenced by mainstream genres. Pop music is a genre that is often associated with mainstream culture. Nowadays, advertisers are trying to attract a more mainstream audience. Cybercrime. Criminal activity that is done using the internet. Violation. Law-breaking. Hate crime. The rate of cybercrime has increased with the rise of technology. The news organization reported on the rise in cybercrime incidents. Cybercrime is a global issue that requires international cooperation. Editorial. Newspaper article in which the editor gives an opinion. Commentary. Critique. Coverage. The editorial in the magazine was about the benefits of reading. The journalist wrote a weighty editorial on government corruption. The editorial will provoke readers into thinking seriously about the issue. Endorsement. The action of supporting someone or something. Approval. Authorization. Backing. The endorsement from the celebrity legitimated the product's quality. The wealthy athlete's endorsement deals made him a household name. The fashion brand used a celebrity endorsement to entice more sales. Propaganda. Information, especially of a biased or misleading nature. Misinformation. Promotion. Hype. The party adopted an aggressive propaganda campaign against its rivals. Politicians often try and beat their rivals by airing propaganda on television. They have mounted a propaganda campaign against Western governments. Plagiarism. The practice of stealing someone else's work or ideas. copying, infringement, piracy. Plagiarism and false reporting are counterproductive to a free press. The techniques for detecting plagiarism are becoming increasingly advanced. Students are particularly vulnerable to dangerous practices such as plagiarism. Emergence. The process of coming into existence or prominence. Extension, advancement, progression. The emergence of a new language can open up new opportunities. It saw the emergence of many new trends that had not been seen before. The book traces the emergence of China as a superpower in the 21st century. Diffusion. The action of spreading in many directions. Transmission, penetration, entrance. The diffusion of knowledge has been made easier by the Internet. The diffusion of cultural practices can lead to the preservation of traditions. The diffusion of art and literature can bridge gaps between different cultures. Cyberbullying. Harassing with the use of digital technologies. Online harassment. Bullying. Maltreatment. Cyberbullying affects children and adults at home, school, work, and online. People can adopt coping strategies to combat future cyberbullying events. Most cyberbullying often goes unreported as the victim feels nothing can be done. Racism. The belief that people of some races are inferior to others. Prejudice. Intolerance. Bigotry. The anti-racism movement fights against racism and discrimination. Black Americans have faced discrimination and racism throughout history. In recent times, the authorities have taken steps to combat racism in schools. Backlash. A strong negative reaction by a large number of people. Reaction. After effect. Chain reaction. The government had to withdraw its proposal due to public backlash. The company violated the animal welfare laws and faced public backlash. The ad was misleading, so the company faced backlash from consumers. Demography. The statistical study of human populations. Statistics. Population size. Population tally. Understanding demography is important for predicting workforce needs. Internet users are segmented on the basis of geography and demography. Demography is an important factor in predicting future population growth. Obituary. A notice of a death, especially in a newspaper. Death notice. Funereal. Memorial. The obituary mentioned her passion for volunteering and helping others. The newspaperman wrote an obituary for a prominent community member. Summarizing his life, Muhammad Ali's obituary was plastered in the newspaper. Eyewitness. A person who has seen something happen. Spectator. Onlooker. Observer. According to eyewitness accounts, soldiers opened fire on the crowd. The eyewitness's credibility was questioned during cross-examination. The jury towards the eyewitness testimony was conflicted and uncertain. Bulletin. A short official statement or broadcast summary of the news. Report. Announcement. Notice. News bulletins with local content can be heard at the following times. Media interrupts this program to bring you an important news bulletin. No news bulletins or current affairs programs will air Wednesday or Thursday. Crowdfunding. Raising money from many people to fund a project. Financing. Sponsoring. Patronizing. The new crowdfunding campaign has already passed its minimum goal. Every successful non-profit crowdfunding campaign starts with a good story. Crowdfunding sites generate revenue from a percentage of the funds raised. E-commerce. Buying and selling of goods and services over the Internet. E-business. Online trading. Cyberbusiness. E-commerce operates in market segments including business to business. If you'd like your business to be online, visit e-commerce to start the process. The word e-commerce was coined to refer to business done over the Internet. Espionage. The activity of secretly collecting and reporting information. Surveillance. Spying. Lookout. He eventually becomes a detective, specializing in cases of espionage. The big computer companies are very worried about industrial espionage. Digging through someone's trash to get information is an act of espionage. Eye-catching. Immediately appealing or noticeable, striking. Impressive. Arresting. Astonishing. He saw a man walking along the street using an eye-catching mobile. Their press releases should be eye-catching and on boldly headed paper. The company's name has just been reissued with an eye-catching headline. Scandal. Disgraceful events or nasty gossip about people's private lives. Misconduct. Disgrace. Embarrassment. The fuel that drives pop culture seems to be gossip and scandals. My sister loves reading about all the scandals that movie stars get into. There was gossip and scandal, but it never affected his business dealings. Veto. To refuse to allow something. Rejection. Boycott. Embargo. The governor exercised his veto power to reject the proposed budget. The committee's veto was a result of disagreements among its members. The Ministry of Defence has the power of veto over all British arms exports. Sovereignty. Supreme power, or authority. Supremacy. Domination. Control. The government granted the tribe sovereignty over their territory. The sovereignty of a country is protected by its constitution and laws. Talks are being held about who should have sovereignty over the island. Autocracy. A system of government by one person. Despotism. Absolutism. Fascism. Autocracy is a form of government where one person holds all the power. The autocracy has a history of exploiting natural resources for personal gain. The autocracy's propaganda machine successfully manipulated public opinion. Invasion. Invading a country or region with an armed force. Intrusion. Encroachment. Trespass. After the invasion, people were forbidden to fly their national flag. The medieval castle was built to withstand invasion from enemy armies. At that time the government was unwilling to resist the foreign invasion. Impeachment. To charge a public official. Accusation. Prosecution. Allegation. Trump's impeachment trial was historic because he was out of office. The impeachment of a president can also have economic consequences. The verdict resulting from his impeachment destroyed his political career. Think tank. A body of experts providing advice and ideas. Specialists. Advisory board. Panel. The think tank's recommendations were well received by policymakers. The left-wing think tank analyzes the impact of globalization on workers. The think tank's research center is equipped with state-of-the-art facilities. Anarchy. A state of society without government or law. Disorder. Turmoil. Reign of terror. If anarchy were to occur, there would be no human rights protection. Anarchy can lead to the emergence of alternative forms of governance. The country descended into anarchy after the overthrow of the government. Manifestation. The public display of emotion or feeling. Exhibition. Indication. Presentation. The rioting was a manifestation of deep-rooted frustration and anger. The revolt against the church was a manifestation of people's discontent. This outbreak of violence is a clear manifestation of discontent in the city. Amendment. An official change made to a law or contract. Correction. Modification. Revision. The amendment will remove the inconsistency between the two laws. The First Amendment to the Constitution guarantees freedom of speech. The Charter Amendment was controversial and sparked a heated debate. Propaganda. Biased and misleading information. Misinformation. Promotion. Media hype. The party adopted an aggressive propaganda campaign against its rivals. The official propaganda machine went into overdrive when war broke out. They have mounted a propaganda campaign against Western governments. Constitution. The set of political principles. Body of law. Regulations. Ordinance. The Constitution protects our right to practice any religion we choose. Our Constitution embodies all the fundamental principles of democracy. The United States Constitution grants Congress the power to declare war. Arbitration. The use of a negotiator to settle a dispute. Adjudication. Mediation. Negotiation. The arbitration agreement is a common practice in business contracts. The judge chaired the arbitration hearing and made impartial decisions. The arbitration process helped us settle a dispute without going to court. Bureaucracy. A system for controlling or managing a country. Administration. Hierarchy. Mechanism. Excessive bureaucracy can be a bottleneck in government services. The bureaucracy is made up of many different levels of government. The project was delayed by the deadweight of bureaucracy and red tape. Communism. A political and economic system. Collectivism. Socialism. Laborism. The collapse of communism changed East-West relations forever. The collapse of communism would automatically lead to democracy. That period provided a favorable environment for the spread of communism. Ally. A country that supports and helps another. Associate. Comrade. Supporter. Winston Churchill once described Portugal as Britain's oldest ally. Canada has been a strong ally of the US throughout most of its history. He is generally considered to be the Prime Minister's closest political ally. Sanction. Official permission or approval for an action. Permission. Endorsement. Validation. The government issued a sanction to restrict trade with that country. No decision can be taken without the sanction of the government body. The city may sanction businesses that violate environmental regulations. Referendum. A direct vote by the electorate on a proposal. Public vote. Ballot. Opinion poll. The president went over the head of Congress and called a referendum. Some countries may require a referendum or public vote for ratification. The abolishment of the monarchy in England would require a referendum. Democracy. A system of government with freedom and equality. Self-rule. Autonomy. Independence. The elections marked the country's progress towards democracy. Our Constitution embodies all the fundamental principles of democracy. He will remain head of state during the period of transition to democracy. Regime. The ruling government of a country. Tenure. Dynasty. Reign. The ancient regime was marked by the rise of Enlightenment ideas. The autocrat's regime was characterized by nepotism and cronyism. The dictator threatened to execute anyone who opposed his regime. Totalitarianism. A government that prohibits all opposition parties. Authoritarianism. Dictatorship. Oppression. The totalitarian regime used propaganda to manipulate public opinion. Many extreme right wings have been accused of practicing totalitarianism. The citizens lived in constant surveillance and fear of the totalitarian state. Legislation. Set of laws suggested by a government. Laws. Bills. Charters. The council members debated the merits of the proposed legislation. The new legislation aims at redefining the boundaries of free speech. The Congressional Committee recommended changes to the legislation. Tyranny. A state under an oppressive government. Reign of terror. Dystopia. Subjugation. The history of many nations is marked by a revolt against tyranny. The tyranny of bureaucracy slowed down the decision-making process. Freedom from tyranny is an essential principle we should always defend. Constituency. Division of country with political representative. Electorate. Voting area. Territory. The politician's constituency was known for its high voter turnout. The candidate's constituency was made up of diverse ethnic groups. The constituency's demographics were changing due to immigration. Demographic. Statistical data of human populations. Statistics. Population tally. Census. Many statutory services are not keeping pace with demographic change. The demographic data was normalized to compare different populations. The demographics of the country have changed dramatically in recent years. Coalition. The joining together of different political parties. League. Association. Affiliation. The formation of a coalition government is common in some countries. The two political parties will combine to form a coalition government. The coalition was a group of people who cared about their community. Civil rights. The rights that each person has in a society. Freedom. Human rights. Basic rights. The civil rights movement brought about important social changes. Unemployment was high despite the gains of the civil rights movement. The senator's speech brought an angry response from civil rights groups. Ratification. Formal confirmation or sanction. Approval. Endorsement. Permission. Some countries may require a referendum or public vote for ratification. The United Nations Charter requires the ratification of its member states. The ratification of the decision was unanimous among the board members. Impunity. Freedom from punishment. Exemption. Exoneration. Pardon. The notion of accountability underlies impunity and lawlessness. The political machine operated with impunity, immune to any consequences. Corruption can lead to a culture of impunity and disregard for the rule of law. Urbanization. The population shift from rural to urban areas. Metropolitan. Expansion. Industrialization. The present day is a time of rapid urbanization and population growth. Urbanization can endanger wildlife by destroying their natural habitats. Some ornithologists study the impact of urbanization on bird populations. Heat wave. A period of abnormally hot weather than usual. Hot weather. Dog days. Hot spell. The intensification of the heat wave led to record-breaking temperatures. The city faced a barrage of power outages during the summer heat wave. The heat wave resulted in numerous cases of heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Eco-friendly. Earth-friendly or not harmful to the environment. Environment-friendly. Viable. Green. The new policy would not only be efficient but would also be eco-friendly. Our new eco-friendly engines promise better fuel consumption than before. For the environmentally conscious guy, there are even some eco-friendly choices. Emission. A substance that goes into the air. Discharge. Radiation. Transmission. Burning fossil fuels releases emissions that are harmful to the environment. Organic farming prevents the emission of toxic chemicals into our water and air. Many countries are reluctant to cut emissions if it means sacrificing economic growth. Contamination. The process of making something dirty or poisonous. Infection. Degradation. Pollution. The food products will undergo inspection to check for any contamination. Microbial contamination can cause food spoilage and foodborne illnesses. There is a high level of environmental contamination from radioactive waste. Recycling. Process of converting waste into reusable material. Reutilizing. Reprocessing. Regenerating. Recycling is saving landfill space as solid waste such as bottles and cans. Recycling the waste from our increased consumption is better than burning it. Recycling helps control environmental pollution by reducing the need for waste dumps. Logging. An act of cutting down trees on a large scale. Deforestation. Chopping. Cutting down trees. Constant logging threatens to wipe out the little that is left of the rainforest. People are cutting down thousands of acres of rainforest through illegal logging. Illegal logging is happening and huge areas of land are being cut down every month. Conservation. Careful preservation and protection of something. Preservation. Protection. Maintenance. The Bat Conservation Group worked to protect endangered species. The team launched a week-long campaign to promote energy conservation. In many countries, water conservation is essential during the summer months. Toxic waste. Any unwanted material in all forms that can cause harm. Industrial waste. Nuclear waste. Atomic waste. The toxic waste dump is a potential source of groundwater contamination. The factory had accidentally released a quantity of toxic waste into the sea. Dumping toxic waste into rivers and oceans is a form of ecological terrorism. Ecology. The relationship of living things to their environment. Biosphere. Ecosphere. Natural world. The oil spill caused terrible damage to the fragile ecology of the coast. Wetlands are often used for research in ecology and environmental science. The tidal action can also affect the ecology of coastal wetlands and marshes. Topography. A detailed map of the surface features of land. Landscape. Geography. Terrain. The map provides valuable information about the topography of the area. The topography of the river's basin has changed significantly since the floods. The topography of the region is known for its amazing views and scenic beauty. Carcinogenic. A substance that is likely to cause cancer. Deadly chemical. Health hazard. Poison. Research has shown that many of these preservatives are carcinogenic. These have a carcinogenic effect on many animal species, including primates. The government issued a warning about the carcinogenic effects of smoking. Diversity. Many different things exist together in a group. Variety. Multiplicity. Range. The island has more diversity in plant life than other islands nearby. Our organization believes in encouraging cultural diversity, not diversion. Filled with diversity, my neighborhood contains plants of many different species. Ozone layer. A layer of air high above the Earth that contains ozone. Stratosphere. Upper atmosphere. Ozone shield. The ozone layer provides us with protection from the sun's harmful UV rays. Global warming could be accelerated due to the thinning of the ozone layer. Because of the excessive pollution in the area, the ozone layer is being depleted. Extinction. A situation in which something no longer exists. Obliteration. Destruction. Extermination. An operation is beginning to try to save a species of crocodile from extinction. The extinction of certain species can be caused by overhunting or overfishing. We must conserve natural habitats to prevent the extinction of various species. Global warming. A gradual increase in the Earth's temperature. Global heating. Climate change. Climate crisis. Heedless destruction of the rainforests is contributing to global warming. A rising level of greenhouse gas emissions is associated with global warming. It is impossible to predict what the eventual outcome of global warming will be. Aquifer. An underground layer of water bearing. Groundwater. Reservoir. Fountain. The aquifer's water is used for irrigation, drinking, and industrial purposes. As the population grows, the demand for water from the aquifer increases. The aquifer's water quality is being threatened by nearby industrial activities. Renewable energy. Energy comes from natural sources or processes. Solar energy. Wind energy. Hydropower. Harnessing power from water is another way to generate renewable energy. Renewable energy will become progressively more important as time goes on. Renewable energy is energy produced by wind and sun, and that will never run out. Flora. All the plant life present in a particular region. Vegetation. Foliage. Plant life. Dry land regions are often characterized by their unique flora and fauna. The local flora and fauna have adapted to the unique climate of this area. The province contains rich areas of biodiversity of a range of flora and fauna. Husbandry. The cultivation or production of plants or animals. Farming. Agronomy. Agriculture. Livestock farmers utilize husbandry systems to optimize feed efficiency. Sustainable agriculture relies on the utilization of husbandry frameworks. The use of precision agriculture is a key component of advanced husbandry. Poaching. Catching and killing of animals without permission. Killing illegally. Hunting. Intruding. Poaching is a crime that can have serious consequences for the environment. Hunting and poaching can endanger the biodiversity of certain animal species. The suspect was arrested by the park rangers for poaching endangered animals. Fossil fuel. Fossil fuels are the fuels formed by natural processes. Gasoline, crude oil, natural gas. In recent times, agriculture has become a major fossil fuel energy user. Some natural resources, such as natural gas and fossil fuels, cannot be replaced. A theory that said that the burning of fossil fuels was dangerous for the environment. Erosion. The process of eroding or being eroded by wind or water. Corrosion, weathering, decomposition. The point here is that low yields may accelerate erosion rates considerably. Planetary scientists believe the problem is most likely the product of wind erosion. Experts believe that poor farming methods have contributed to increased soil erosion. Fauna. All of the animal life is present in a particular region. Animals. Creatures. Wild animals. The forest's fauna are safeguarded by local wildlife life protection laws. Forest logging has led to the destruction of the habitats of fauna in the area. Flora and fauna, in particular birds, are the victims of oil and other forms of pollution. Endangered. A type of animal or plant that has become very rare. Imperil. Jeopardize. Put at risk. Endangered animals are the main concern of the World Wildlife Foundation. This newly found island is maintained as a sanctuary for endangered species. Our legislation does not offer adequate protection for many endangered species. Food chain. A process of one living organism eats another organism. Food cycle. Hierarchy. Food web. Pollution is having a long-term impact on the food chain in the Bay. The whole food chain is affected by the overuse of chemicals in agriculture. This new measure would clearly enhance food safety throughout the food chain. Biodiversity. Describe the enormous variety of life on Earth. Species diversity. Ecodiversity. Genetic diversity. If we lose biodiversity, some animals and plants might become extinct. Biodiversity can be measured in terms of species richness and evenness. The invasive species can pose a threat to biodiversity by altering ecosystems. Suffrage. The right to vote in political elections. Franchise. Voting rights. Ballot. The idea of feminism originated in the women's suffrage movement. There was a struggle for women's suffrage in Britain in the early century. The pioneers of the suffrage movement fought for women's right to vote. Lobbying. The activity of trying to persuade someone in authority. Influencing. Persuading. Soliciting. Women's groups are lobbying to get more public money for children. The Bush administration has waged a lobbying effort in the past years. Private firms spend millions lobbying politicians to promote their interests. Mandate. An official order or commission to do something. Decree. Ordinance. Commandment. The president was elected with a clear mandate to tackle violent crime. Sometimes a president thinks he has more of a mandate than he really does. The peacekeeping forces operate under a mandate from the United Nations. Confederation. An organization consisting of different groups of people. Federation. Association. Union. The Confederation of Organizations collaborated to address the issue. The Articles of Confederation emphasized the importance of state rights. The Confederation of Religious Groups was formed to promote tolerance. Bilateral. In a way that involves two groups or countries. Reciprocal. Collective. Cooperative. The bilateral agreement between the two countries was signed last year. The delegations from neighboring countries signed a bilateral agreement. The Norwegian side is involved in bilateral military cooperation with Russia. Agenda. A list of matters to be discussed at a meeting. Itinerary. Inventory. Program. The agenda is sent to each committee member before the meeting. But they had a different philosophical agenda from his predecessors. The non-electronic method of staying organized is found in an agenda. Monopoly. Exclusive control of a commodity in a particular market. Domination. Suppression. Control. They are demanding an end to the Communist Party's monopoly of power. The state made itself a monopoly supplier of essential goods, such as grain. It is common for the government to have a monopoly on television broadcasting. Negotiate. To deal or bargain with another or others. Mediate. Arbitrate. Intervene. It is not clear whether the president is willing to negotiate with the Democrats. It is a widely held axiom that governments should not negotiate with terrorists. Workers have decided to negotiate with their employers about their wage claims. Demagogue. A political leader who tries to get support by making false claims. Agitator. Instigator. Manipulator. The politician was accused of being a demagogue by his opponents. The demagogue's speeches were often filled with appeals to emotion. The demagogue used hyperbole to exaggerate the severity of a problem. Rule out. Stop considering something as a possibility. Discard. Exclude. Dismiss. A serious car accident ruled out a permanent future for him in politics. The discovery rules out a link between the suspect and the scene of the crime. Pragmatism does not rule out any theory about what makes a country better. Nepotism. Favoritism is shown on the basis of family relationship. Favoritism. Bias. Unfairness. A number of officials have succumbed to nepotism and corruption. Many critics condemned the government for excessive secrecy and nepotism. Since George is an idiot, everyone knows his father hired him because of nepotism. Allegation. A claim that someone has done something illegal. Accusation. Assertion. Claim. It is evident there is no truth in the single allegation made against her. The police are investigating allegations that the mayor has accepted bribes. Later, the witness who had testified against Muawad withdrew his allegation. Conspiracy. A secret plan by a group to do something unlawful. Scheme. Plot. Deception. There were many conspiracy theories surrounding Princess Diana's death. He had already admitted conspiracy to steal and will be sentenced today. The conspiracy was successful, the performance took place without hindrance. Defamation. The act of damaging the reputation of someone. Slander. Criticism. Smearing. He brought legal action against the magazine for defamation of character. They are facing numerous charges including sedition and royal defamation. The politician lost his seat when an act of defamation ruined his reputation. Ceasefire. An agreement between two armies or groups to stop war. Reconciliation. Peace treaty. Resolution. The UN has passed a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire. One is about a political resolution and the other is about a ceasefire. A shaky ceasefire is holding after 3 days of fighting between rival groups. Accountability. The acceptance of responsibility toward other parties. Responsibility. Liability. Answerability. Responsibility and accountability are coupled with managerial authority. Ministerial accountability to Parliament is often cited as a stumbling block. Transparency and accountability are essential to a democratic government. Scandal. Disgraceful events or nasty gossip about people's private lives. Slander. Defamation. Embarrassment. The scandal threatened to undermine the institution of the presidency. Ministers have dismissed the rumors of a bribery scandal as nonsense. It is getting harder for the president to dissociate himself from the scandal. Demonstrators. A group of participants in a public protest meeting or march. Activists. Protesters. Rebels. No one on the panel endorsed what the demonstrators were yelling. Demonstrators demanded immediate autonomy for their local region. The police found that demonstrators were scattered across the intersection. Subsidy. A benefit given by the government to groups or individuals. Endowment. Contribution. Backing. Recently, the government has cut subsidies on electricity and petrol. The company receives a heavy subsidy from the national government. Farmers are planning a massive demonstration against farm subsidy cuts. Discrepancy. The state or quality of being discrepant or in disagreement. Inconsistency. Incongruity. Disparity. The discrepancy is also apparent when comparing data by gender. There are two main reasons for the discrepancy between the two measures. There is a large discrepancy between the ideal image of motherhood and reality. Supervision. The action of supervising someone or something. Regulation. Direction. Management. Trainees will receive personal supervision from experienced staff. The drug should only be administered under strict medical supervision. Have a positive work attitude and be able to work diligently without supervision. Boycott. Withdraw from commercial or social relations. Embargo. Prohibition. Rejection. The group is calling for a mass consumer boycott of these products. The opposition leader called for a boycott of the upcoming election. The citizens organized a boycott against the proposed increase in taxes. Prominent. In a way that can easily be seen or noticed. Well known. Noteworthy. Distinguished. The decision prompted an outcry among prominent U.S. campaigners. The government should play a prominent role in promoting human rights. In recent years, these theories have become more explicit and more prominent. Nationwide. Extending or reaching throughout a whole nation. Countrywide. All-embracing. Widespread. A nationwide campaign against pornography began in the winter. Despite a nationwide hunt for the kidnap gang, not a trace of them was found. Some miners are calling for a nationwide strike in support of their sacked colleagues. Fatality. An occurrence of death by accident, in war, or from disease. Casualty. Mortality. Tragedy. Now we have the highest fatality rate from fire in the industrial world. Several people were injured, but there were no fatalities in that accident. China also has the highest fatality rate for miners, despite repeated safety sweeps. Derogatory. Showing a critical or disrespectful attitude. Offensive. Belittling. Insulting. This officer had made many derogatory remarks about General Lee. The messages are derogatory in nature about other members of staff. Their discussion contained a number of derogatory racial interpretations. Controversial. A lot of disagreement or argument about something. Contentious. Debatable. Disputed. As a controversial public figure, he has breasted much hostile criticism. This group holds widely divergent opinions on controversial issues like abortion. He was expelled from the party for failing to withdraw his controversial remarks. Perpetrator. A person who carries out a harmful or illegal act. Offender. Culprit. Committer. The suspect off campus was identified as the perpetrator of a hate crime. The crime was premeditated and carefully planned out by the perpetrator. That notorious perpetrator of robbery was sentenced to death yesterday. Onus. The responsibility or duty to do something. Burden. Obligation. Liability. This would put a greater onus on the health sector to provide more income. The onus of leadership was passed on to her, and she was nervous but excited. The minister accepted the onus of leading the team, Yet he still struggled with the task. Demise. The death of a person or end of life. Decease. Loss of life. Termination. This led directly to both his referendum failure and his political demise. Many political parties had mixed feelings about the president's demise. The demise of the administration led to an unprecedented level of corruption.